Welcome to Spiritual and Ambitious. I'm your host, Whitney McNeil. I'm a certified medium and spiritual teacher, and I help spiritual and ambitious souls just like you live your life purpose through your career and attract abundance by connecting into your intuition and spirit guides. Let's get spiritual and ambitious. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual and Ambitious podcast. I am so excited for today's episode. I have my friend and colleague on the show, and she is going to talk about how spirituality and style go together. So, tell you a little bit about my guest. It's Lauren Messiah. She's a personal stylist and founder of the Style Boss Academy. Lauren is revolutionizing the way people dress through her comprehensive approach to elevating one's life through style, working from the inside out. I love that she does this. With her signature method of combining style with personal development, Lauren bridges personal styling and life coaching to curate a closet and look that supports one's goals and takes the stress and self-doubt out of looking one's best. Welcome to the podcast, Lauren. Thanks so much for being here.
Hello, my friend.
I'm so happy to finally get you on this podcast. I mean, we met years ago on Amy Porterfield's stage, and I just instantly clicked with you. I love that you have this spiritual take on style, and I wanted you to really break it down for our listeners today because style, I think, and of course, I want to get your opinion, is more than just wearing clothes. It's a whole comprehensive list of things. So, with that, would you share with our listeners what style means to you?
Yeah, so style's been important to me since I was a little girl because I'm a weirdo, introvert, don't like can't do peopling well. And when I discovered that when I put something on, it was how I was able to express myself and it would invite people in to speak to me and start conversation. I was like, ooh, this is kind of like a little superpower that I have. And even getting older, like in high school and things, I never really fit with a group. So I would use style to like infiltrate, to be like, are these my people? Are these my people? And into adulthood, for me, it's all about self expression completely. So I don't know, you just get to shape shift and be someone different and have fun. So I love everything about style.
I love everything you said. So many of our listeners are going to resonate with that. I felt that way as a kid too. I, on the outside, looked like I fit in, but I never felt like I fit in on the inside. And I was just talking about this the other day, would conform my energy and shift it based on who I was
Yes.
talking to. And
Yes.
I feel like this conversation is going to go in that direction with style and clothes and how that works. What's so interesting for me is I'll wake up sometimes and feel like I want to wear this, and then I'll wake up and I want to feel like I'm wearing something completely different. What do you think that is?
I mean, I feel like myself, I'm very sensitive to people's energy. And I don't know, maybe it's like a comfort thing on for them and for me because nobody likes to feel awkward in their clothes. So, I was having a conversation with a woman the other day who's like a style psychologist. And it's like, well, where do you draw the line between dressing authentically and dressing for other people? And it's like, there's rules. There's rules. You can't roll into a wedding like wearing overalls. Like you have to adhere to the dress code. So I think in life, we kind of try to adhere to dress codes that don't exist per se. Like hanging out with this person, I should dress a certain way, or waking up, I feel this way, I should do this. Like it's been raining in LA the past 2 days, and instantly you want to wear a sweater, you want to be cozy. Like, what is that? There's some energetic code
I
that
agree.
has us behaving, dressing according to what the frequency is at that time.
I love this. As an empath, I feel that sometimes I will adapt to someone's energy. So it's this weird line of, well, I can comfort, but also I want to create more of my making sure that it's my authenticness. So I want to dive more into signature style. I think that has a lot to do with energy too. But before we talk about that, how do you feel that spirituality and style are related?
To me, spirituality is like every part of you. And, you start by putting it in you, but it seeps out in the way that you handle situations, the way you behave, the way you interact. So why wouldn't the way you visibly present yourself, why wouldn't that have a piece of it? And I think it's funny, probably gonna get some people that don't like this, but a lot of people in the spiritual community that I don't feel are fully in tune with spirit. They're kind of wearing the spirituality costume. Like,
Totally get it.
especially in LA, there's like different dress codes for different levels of spirituality.
Totally understand that. Living in
Faux
Sedona,
spirit.
Arizona. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's like there's that, but I think I talk about this with my clients, like reaching like style nirvana, where you get to this point where you're so in tune with who you are, your energy, what you're all about, that you can't help but to dress in such an authentic expression of that spirit. We don't have to call it spirituality, that spirit, that people just get you. And I think that's the journey that I've been on for my whole entire life because I've done every piece of following the style rule. I know all the style psychology, dress like this, and this will help you get the job or get the guy. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel in alignment with who you are, so I'm like, someone's going to have to accept me in my like goofy, like Cosby show looking sweater, and I could be my most authentic self and show up the most powerfully in that way. And I think people get confused because they want to rebel against style and they start wearing things that they think represents who they are inside, what their spirit is. And it's like, girl, that ain't you.
Hmm.
And for me, I don't know what you would call it, but I feel like I'm like a knower. Like I just can recognize energy and just know, and I can kind of see people to be like, "Nah, that ain't your jam. Like you should be wearing this," which is why I've been so successful as a stylist, but people feel in alignment. They're like, "Wait, this is how I should have looked the whole time." I'm like, "Yeah, cuz that was you. We just expressed it through some fabric and some accessories and stuff."
I like that. So you're using your intuitive language as the channeler that knows. You can just
Yes.
kind of get the energy of this is what it is. I do feel like so many spiritual people, especially empaths, have trouble finding what their style is or who they are identity wise because they're taking in so many other different people's information and thoughts and feelings. And just as you said, this is what a spiritual person looks like. I remember when I first started my business years ago, back in this one room office across right now the US, it was in North Carolina. And people would say, "Oh my gosh, I just had a reading with a psychic medium and she dressed normal." I thought that was hilarious. I was like, yeah, you don't have to be a certain way or look a certain way. It's what do you feel excited to wear, right? Like, what do you feel most powerful in? And I started to notice that when I'm getting ready to have a meeting or I'm planning, I will have a spirit guide that will tell me what earrings to wear and what color to wear. And I swear it works. So they might not tell me this looks best with this, but they'll say this is like the power that you need to embody today, or the color, the energy, the frequency, the vibration. And right now, it's like hot pink is my thing. So if I'm wearing pink and even subdued level of pink, it must be my heart chakra or this power color, but I will feel differently. And I really like that way that I feel, which is I think so challenging sometimes for spiritual people because one, they might think, I've transcended, this world and, these clothes don't matter. And they're not really realizing that this is just a different way to express themselves because we have four spiritual bodies well, when I say spiritual bodies, we actually have a spiritual body, an emotional body, a mental body, and a physical body. And I think too many spiritual people neglect that physical aspect of themselves. And it can be such an expression of your energy. And would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, we can't deny that people have eyes and people have intuition and gut feelings, and a lot of that comes visually. So to me, it's like you get to invite in certain energies or not invite in certain energies by the way that you dress. Like if it's early in the morning and it's cold and I'm don't feel like talking to people, I'm going to dress in a certain way so people don't say hello to me when I'm walking my dog.
Ooh, that's a good one. Hadn't even thought about that. I get that now.
But if you're like, ooh, like I'm cute today, I want to meet people, you're more inclined to go out, you're more inclined to smile, people are coming up to you and you're inviting in positive energy. I met this young entrepreneur at an event and she was like, Lauren, like you're so good at like reading people and their style, like do me, do me. I was like, girl, you don't want me to do it. You don't want me to do it. She's like, do it, I can take it. I was like, girl, you dress like a hoe. She was like, what? I said, yes. I said, you're a smart, brilliant woman, but I can tell you're holding your purse like over your crotch because your dress is too short. She's like, how did you know? Because I can see it. So I said, you're inviting in a different energy field at this event. You're inviting in the male gaze, you're inviting in people hitting on you, but you're here for your business. Who do you want to meet? Other women, they don't want to talk to the girl holding the purse over her crotch. They feel so it's like there's so many ways that style can communicate and there's different facets of who you are that you get to make that decision every time you step into your closet.
So, why do you think someone would show up to that event? And I'm guessing she felt insecure at that time. So, not necessarily just in that example, but why do you think people will choose an outfit that when they go out into public, they will feel insecure in and it doesn't reflect the energy? And I think somewhere down deep, they know it doesn't coincide with their goals, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I had a great conversation with this young entrepreneur, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, like no one's ever put it like this." And she said, "Honestly, I have confidence issues with my body, and I was never accepted by men. And now that my body is like a certain way and I get the attention, she's like, that's the only attention I know how to get." So I think people tune into different aspects of their own spirit where they feel really comfortable, where there's certain things I'm very confident in and others I'm not, but you're going to default to what that thing is. So I think people who reject style, it's like, no, I'm so confident in who I am as a person and you should accept me. And like, I'm going to wear this stuff. It's like, but what if we opened up this different channel that made a different energy available to you?
Yeah, that's so insightful. I'm having a lot of light bulbs go off just, seeing people on Instagram or things like that. And I'm like, gosh, what you're wearing doesn't quite go with the vibe I think that you're trying to attract. And now I get it. That's actually like, oh yeah, now I understand this. Thank you for saying it. So it's almost like sometimes we can dress where our wounds are. It sounds
Yes.
like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think because, especially for people who are spiritual or intellectual, this is usually the last thing on the list that they want to focus on is style. But if you actually take a personal development, spiritual self help approach to style, to really understand, and like as you were talking earlier about empaths taking other energy, when you focus in, just as you would do in a journaling practice, a prayer, a meditation, but do it directed towards your outer shell, you can get more in tune with who you are. And it's like, ooh, okay, this makes sense. This is not so hard. And I think it helps fortify your own identity and energy. Not that you can like completely block out, if you're an empath, you're an empath, but I think it can help fortify and kind of remind you who the heck you are.
Ooh, so something that came up as you're talking, I was also getting some remembrances or memories, whatever you want to call them. And I thought, okay, when I was younger, I got some unwanted attention from men. I felt really uncomfortable. So I started never wearing makeup, didn't really care about my hair, put it up in a bun, and really dressed down. And I remember my mom saying, "Why don't you care? Like, let's go shopping." I was like, "No, I'm not going to do it." And this lasted for years. And it wasn't really until maybe the last 7 years or so, 5 years or so, where I got really more interested and confident in who I was and wanted to really dress in a way that I felt really confident in. And then I think that we can come up with these excuses like, I haven't, I'm raising my hand for this. I haven't lost enough weight yet. I don't want to buy clothes because I haven't lost the weight or whatever it is. And something shifted within me where I said, I don't care. Like, I'm still going to buy clothes that feel good. So I bought the extra sizes. Like, after my 2 surgeries, I had gained so much weight and I was like, I'm going to buy the extra sizes, like the larger sizes. And I felt so much freaking better. It's like, oh yeah.
Right. Right.
Right. So how do you feel that somebody can overcome that not wanting to be seen? Whether it could be, I'm ashamed of telling people really who I am, or I can't talk about my spiritual abilities. So maybe they go into this place of hiding and an excuse of how style doesn't really, matter to them, when in fact it's just an expression. How do you feel like people make that transition, or is there a tool that can kind of help them to do that?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I think one is kind of from like a business standpoint that I'll tell my students that I coach, like, you're robbing people. You're robbing people if you're not sharing your gift. It's like, how dare you if like God has given you a gift and you're over here holding back because, oh my gosh, like, I'm a little fat, or like, oh my gosh, people are looking at my boobs. It's like, really? Really?
Right.
You're going to keep people from having all this magical stuff you have for that? Because, we both had surgery recently, and you're swollen, you're not as active. We're also getting older. I'm like, huh, it's
Yeah.
not just an instant add to cart for small anymore. Sometimes we
Right.
got to be like, do I need a medium? And it feels weird. But when you think about growing up, oh my God, I'm so fat. I can't wear this bikini. And then you look back, you're like, what I would do for that fat body today, because I was skinny. So like,
Exactly.
our perception can be so warped, and it's like, why are we robbing people from our gifts? That's one. But the second thing that came up for me recently working with a hypnotherapist, and I don't know, how some things are like, really, Lauren, this is your light bulb moment. Like, you should have got this a long freaking time ago. But we were talking about loving yourself. She's like, yeah, you really need to get into like, fully like self love, loving yourself. I was like, girl, I've been doing that. I love all of this. And then this light bulb went off. I was like, no, self love is full self acceptance and celebration of who you are in that very moment. So it's like, why would you torture yourself wearing something too small, opening up the drawer and being like, there's this jeans that don't fit? Someone who really loved themselves would not feel all squoze up and tight in their clothes. They were,
Yes.
and it's like, once you get that download of love, then it's like, oh, a person who really loves themselves isn't going to eat Reese's white chocolate peanut butter pumpkins for breakfast, raising my hand. It's like, she's going to eat something healthy and go to the gym, and it gets this like domino effect. So I think a lot of people think with how you look, body image, self love is like throwing in the towel, acceptance is throwing in the towel. It's like, no, how do you show up as someone who's like genuinely okay with who they are
Hmm.
in the moment and just let that continue to go? So why wouldn't you dress nice for the day? Even if you're by yourself in your office, a person who really loves themselves and their gifts and everything, spirit has given them, they would show up.
Mm, I love that. Thank you for putting it out in those steps. It's like, oh yeah, Of course. Why am I torturing myself by trying to wear two sizes that I wore years ago, like smaller or whatever?
Right.
I totally get that. And you brought up another point of looking back at the photos. And I think that's a great indication when you think to yourself, at that time, I thought I was too fat. And look at me at that time. Actually, I was beautiful. And if we can just start to celebrate ourselves in the moment and recognize we're beautiful and love ourselves so that we're not really being too worried about the future of when we lose 10 pounds or how we looked, 10 years ago. It's like,
You
love
know,
yourself now.
I mean, it's like it's really crazy. I was writing a caption for Instagram today, just telling people like you're not too old to start your business or do whatever. And I'm reflecting back, like when I started my business, I was 28 years old and I started off as an unpaid intern. I swore I was so old at 28. And now I'm like, haha, my 42-year-old self is like, you thought you were old?
Yep.
Like, we've got to stay in the moment because we would do that for our spirituality, stay
I
in the
know.
moment.
Yeah.
Why would we not take those principles and apply them to every aspect of our life?
That's really good. Absolutely. It's important to stay in the present moment. And so if you're listening and you're hearing that and you know that on a spiritual concept, apply this to what Lauren is saying too. I definitely get that. So, Lauren, I want to ask you about manifesting and how you do this with style and combine some spiritual approaches. But I'm going to come back and have Lauren share her tips when we come back after this really quick break. As a professional psychic medium, I've done tens of thousands of readings, but I felt a call to move more fully into teaching intuition. But I still get so many requests about doing readings. So while I don't do readings anymore, I have brought in some very trusted colleagues who are now available for live 1 hour readings on Zoom. If you would like to book your psychic medium reading, go to messengerofspirit.com/appointments to see our available readers and schedule your Zoom reading today. All right. Thanks for hanging in there. I've got Lauren Messiah on the podcast, and she is dropping so much wisdom about how spirituality and your style goes together. So I've known Lauren for a few years. One of the things that she does is she has a vision board or she does some manifesting, she does some journaling, and it's been pretty powerful. So, Lauren, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about manifesting. And one of the questions, where do you feel, because we were just talking about present moment, how important that is, where do you feel your energy has to be in order to manifest your goals? And what does that look like with style?
Yeah. So, one of the big principles when it comes to manifesting is like being the person now who you're trying to manifest in the future. And, people throw that around like, oh, yeah, just do that. But in practical practice, you're like, wait, what? And I think style is one of the easiest ways to physically embody the future version of you. So, one of the exercises that I have my clients do is, when you create a vision board for your life, or if you're someone who closes your eyes and visualizes, or if you're journaling and you're scripting, you're writing out this great life for yourself. Close your eyes and then open them and look at your outfit. And it's like, is this the person? You're like, oh, I imagine myself like working in an office overlooking the ocean, and my private vegan chef is coming in and bringing me lunch. And then you're wearing these like disgusting, dirty sweatpants, and your hair's not brushed. Like, do you really see that version of yourself there? So, imagine what that person would be like. And it doesn't mean go spend all your money now shopping on Rodeo Drive, but it's those things of like, ooh, I would wake up and I would actually get dressed and I would put on a little bit of makeup and I would do my hair. I would go shopping at a nicer store. It doesn't mean you have to buy anything now, but change that frequency and that energy, because again, that's what you're inviting in. Like one of my favorite books is Stuart Wilde, The Trick to Money is Having Some. And I read that like 13 years ago, and it changed everything for me with like money and manifesting. So he said, if you're going to go to a coffee shop and work, instead of going to Starbucks, go to the Four Seasons. It's the same cup of coffee, costs about the same, maybe a dollar more, I don't know, but sit there in that energy. So if you're used to like shopping the clearance rack at Target, ain't nothing wrong with Target, but also walk around the nice store and feel that elevated energy, because it's going to project you faster and further onto like what your ultimate vision is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I talk about the future self with my students in Intuition Abundance Academy. And if you're listening out there, listen to what Lauren is saying. I 100% believe that. And what's interesting is when people will do an exercise like this, they'll sometimes feel like empaths will feel, they'll feel the difference in fabric. Like, ooh, it's kind of a silk, or oh, it's a satin, or whatever it is. There's a quality too with, are you wearing quality clothes or is it really cheap? I think like
Right.
cheaply
And even,
made.
I mean, you could even go further down the rabbit hole. You know, for me, it's like I would rather buy something vintage that obviously the quality was so great. And to me, it has like a great story. Like you can imagine who owned it before you, and you're recycling. Like it's all this great energy. Same price, thrifting or vintage shopping, than getting something at fast fashion, Zara, H&M, that was probably made by a very unhappy worker,
Yeah.
So it's like people who are really in tune with their own energy, like you can pick that stuff up. So, I think there's so much to what we wear, color theory, energy of how it was made, the fabric. And it's like my boy Steve Harvey, says, once you fly first class, it's real hard to go back to coach. Once you wear a piece of clothing that fits really nice, the fabric's nice, you've elevated yourself to be like, okay, this is how we roll now. So, how do we become more successful? How do we do the thing? So, I always have this. It's like eating
Yes.
good food. I ate stuff that I ate when I was a child. I was like, this is disgusting. I ate this.
Yeah, I know.
The heck?
It's like the memory of the food is totally different than if you try to eat it again. It's like, oh my
Yes.
God. But like, I remember it was such great comfort food, but it doesn't have the same effect anymore.
No.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So I wanted to ask you, how did you decide to combine spirituality with style? I think this is such a unique approach. How did it come to you and how's your personal experience? I know that you've seen amazing results with your clients, but tell me a little bit more about that holistic approach.
So for me, one, like I became my best client. When I started styling, I was doing celebrity styling and it did not feel fulfilling at all. I knew I loved fashion from a young age. I'm like, I'm living the dream. I'm working on like a Hollywood set, a music video. I'm like, I feel nothing here except these celebrities are really annoying and I don't like this. So then I started working with private clients, and I would notice that it wasn't actually the clothes that was making them feel good. It was the whole entire process, because in order for me to quickly dress someone that I barely know, that I just met like 3 days ago, I had to deep dive into who they were in order to do my job successfully. So I would ask them questions that they were like, what does this have to do with style? I'm like, don't worry about it. I got to figure out who you are. Like, this is just my process. And through working with them, like getting deep, asking deeper questions, figuring out their goals for life, I could tune into who they were, and they felt seen and they felt more themselves. So I was like, there's something to this. Fast forward, I had been working for years with private clients, but I felt stagnant in my own life. My business wasn't moving the way I wanted it to move. I just felt a little off. So I was like, I'm going to be my client. So that's when I started to dig deeper into who I actually was, what I actually wanted. And because I just love spirituality and self-help, I'm kind of naturally a dot connector. And my clients would be like, hey, could you tell us more about that like spirituality stuff you do? Because I'd post on Instagram just the stuff I'm into. They're like, we want more of that. And just slowly it just became one, you know?
Mm, yes, I'm so glad because it's more than just clothes. It's
It
the
is.
energy, your inner work, your personality. I feel like I'm guessing, so I want you to tell me, but I'm guessing that when your clients have taken your program or they've applied your techniques, they walk away with more self love and feeling like they know exactly who they are and confidence.
Yeah, and they feel it's a process. Just as your spiritual practice is, it's a practice. You don't just be like, "Oh, I meditated 4 times, I'm good." It's
Yeah,
like,
right.
"I got my connection with God, I'm good." It's like, "No, this is a relationship, girl. Like we got to do this all the time." So they realize that it's not this destination. And that's what upsets me about the fashion industry. Like, I don't like the fashion industry. I don't like how they make women feel. I don't like how we feel we have to buy all this stuff to be like cool and pretty and accepted. It's like, get off the hamster wheel and understand it's a journey
Mhm.
and that it's constant evolution and you constantly get to revisit it, but in like a very holistic manner. It's not like, ooh, the fall runway shows came out, get your credit cards out. It's like you feel in touch with yourself. I'm reaching a new level. It's time to evaluate the insides and the outsides and keep moving forward. So they love it. It's just like, I think because a lot of the people I work with are not what you would say are like typical, like we're misfits. Like my clients are misfits. I'm a misfit, they're a misfit, and they kind of get to have their own approach to style that doesn't make sense, but like they look damn good. You know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
people, maybe they weren't the cool ones in high school, but now like they cool. You
Yes.
know?
Well, I mean, your energy when you're expressing yourself that way is confident. Like, look at me. Like, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think we've always kind of looked at style as that traditional styling industry. And I love that you are literally revolutionizing it, looking at it in a different way. You can tell people's charisma, their energy, you feel it. And if your style is on point with that, then that's just going to amplify what you've got. So, this brings me to a question. I don't want to forget about it. What is someone's signature style?
So to me, a signature style is like like the blueprint of who you are in clothing. Because listen, every day we feel a little bit different. You know, like as you were saying, like, "Ooh, today I'm in the mood for this." But overall, there's kind of an umbrella in which we can live under stylistically. So one of the things I see a lot of my clients struggle with is they're using impulse instead of intuition when it comes to clothing. So it's like, "Ooh, I'm shopping," and like, "That's pretty. It's a pink tutu. I'll take it." It's like, no, like that is not. So when you work on developing your signature style, you get in tune with, "Ooh, I really gravitate towards pink, but my overall energy is more nurturing and calming. So, can I wear pink, but do it in a way that aligns with my personality?" So now we kind of have some parameters around our style, which makes it easier to shop, makes you spend less money. And to me, it's creating an identity. So you get to name it. You get to name the style. So you don't have to go buy the fashion stuff of like, "Ooh, I'm just the boho chick, who wears,
Yeah.
a felt floppy hat." It's like, no, you get to say like, "Ooh, I'm the edgy bohemian, like spiritual goddess." Like that's my signature style.
Yes. I
And
love
the
that.
meaning of that to me is wearing rich colors, wearing luxurious fabrics, wearing lots of layers, however you want to describe it. So you kind of get your physical blueprint when it comes to style.
That's so good. So, Lauren, tell us how you work with clients and where they can find you. I know that you have a book, which is amazing. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I have a book. It's called Style Therapy. 30 days to your signature style. And I'd say this is the easiest way for people to work with me because it's like go on Amazon or wherever books are sold, wherever you like to buy books, it's like $20. And it's literally the system in which I would take a client through, but turned in a way that you can do it yourself. And it's like journaling, there's space for vision boards, like it's actually really fun. So, if you want to take yourself through a transformation inside and out, that book is the way to go. I also have an online community called Style Confidence Collective. So, if you want to be with other like minded women who are going through the style journey together and spirituality and personal development, we got like a cool club where they do those things. So, those are the best ways. Or just follow me on Instagram and get you some fun tips.
Yeah.
YouTube, watch some fun videos. I'm all around.
I love Lauren's Instagram. I'm going to link all of these in the show notes. So if you're listening and you're like, ooh, don't worry, you just will find them in the show notes. And lastly, Lauren, I wanted to ask you, which I know, but I wanted to see your definition. How does being spiritual and ambitious show up for you in your business?
Mm. The best way it shows up for me is I get to do things the way I want to do things,
Yes.
So, being an entrepreneur for the past 13 years and being around other entrepreneurs, so it's a very ambitious environment. You're like, oh, are you implementing this type of strategy? Are you doing this? And it's exhausting. And I would burn myself out. I would just run hard and be driven. And I could run for a while until I hit the brick wall, like smack in my face and would be out. So now, I love human design. I love human design. I'm a projector. So it turns out I need to rest. And I had found that out not even through human design, but through an energy reading that I had. And she's like, you need to nap and rest. I was like, girl, I don't do that. Absolutely not. And then I did human design. I was like, okay, she was on to something.
Yeah, she was.
She was on to something. So I feel like I just work in my own little lane of
Yeah.
you can have everything you want. And sometimes what you think you want isn't what you want.
Yes.
So it gets so competitive like, oh, do you have a 7, 8, 9 figure, 20 figure business? It's like,
Right.
maybe you don't even want that. Like, can I serve people, feel happy every day, reach my goals, but also like go outside and make sure I have time for, meditation or reading a great book? It's just like finding that perfect harmony that works for me and doesn't have to work for the outside world. Like, y'all do your thing, I'll do mine.
Yes, use your intuition and paying attention to our energy, I think is just so important. I've really started to redefine success as am I feeling good or am I
Right?
stressed out and I'm burnt out? So that's really great wisdom. I wanted to share with our listeners and with you the cards that I pulled for
I was
today.
I was just gonna say, I was like, before we go, could I please give you a shout out?
Yes.
Your card
Oh,
deck
thank
is
you.
legit, and I'm not saying this because we are friends. It is legit my favorite deck, and I have a whole drawer full of decks. Your deck is right by my bed,
Oh, yay.
and it's how did you make it so good?
I
I'm like,
love it.
how?
I loved getting your messages where you're like, your cards just called me out.
They
What
did.
is going on?
And I was telling my friends about them, and they came over. They're like, will you do something for me? And they're like, how do I order these? They're like, you know the girl that did this? I was like, I do.
I
I
love it.
do. They're so good. All right, enough. Go on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, like after doing years of readings, I just really had all these ideas from spirit and I knew what worked best in the cards. And finally, they've come to fruition. They've manifested. So I'm happy that you are using them. And the first card that I pulled for everybody today is synchronicity. You're on the right path. Everything's coming together. So little feathers, little signs, know that it is in that place. And then I also have the throat chakra. Speak your truth and be authentic. That is what we're talking
Hmm.
about today. So, what comes up for you, Lauren, in these cards? Other than I feel like the throat chakra is very clear, like be and dress your authentic self express it that way.
Yeah, pull up that first one. I got to drink that in because I've never seen that card before. I love it.
Mm.
I'm like, ooh, that just like looking at that, like just gives me chills. Ooh,
Little
all right.
feathers, little signs we're on the right path.
Ooh,
How do you feel like that plays out in style? Like kind of knowing that, ooh, I've got my right style.
yeah. I mean, to me, everything, just like you were saying, it just, when everything feels right. I mean, I think sometimes the word alignment is like a bit overused sometimes, but it's true. Like when you can just sit with yourself and not be fidgeting at your clothes, not be preoccupied with how you look or how people are looking at you, and you just feel like you. It's
Right.
like this morning I just threw on this outfit. It's like mismatched, this dress and sweater, and I put on tights and a boot and boots. And I was just like, I feel completely like me. And I've had this dress for, I don't know, 6 years. And I was like, I feel so me. And for some reason, it just felt like everything's okay. It's kind of like when you feel deja vu
Hmm.
and you're like, "Oh, I feel like I've done this before." And to me, it feels like that means I'm on the right path because everything just feels like yes. And I think when you're in tune with your style, because there'll be times where I'm like, I want to burn my whole closet down
Yeah.
because it's like, it's not me anymore. Like, it's not me anymore. I have to get back into alignment. And when you are, it just feels like the yellow brick road just like
Opens up, right?
opens up and you just go for everything you want. So, yeah.
Mm, that's helpful. So those are some signs knowing that your style is coming together, literally like, oh yeah, it's all coming together. And also it gives our listeners permission to change your style because you are a changeable being, you're evolving. I talk about this a lot with the intuitive languages. A lot of times people will say, yes, I'm a seer, I'm a channeler, which is great. And I want people to really love the way it comes in for them. But as you grow as an energy being, your intuitive language might shift and change. Your energy shifts and changes, and so does your style. So it's all connected. It's all connected. So thank you so much, Lauren, for being here. I appreciate you. I love talking to you, and you've given such great insight, especially for the new year. This is a great time to recommit to ourselves, love ourselves, a lot of self care.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for having me. Delightful conversation.
Absolutely. All right. So you can learn more about Lauren in the show notes, and I will be back next week with a brand new episode. But until then, here's to staying spiritual and ambitious. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And if you loved it, would you please share it with a friend? I would also love your review and a reminder to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find me at messengerofspirit.com. And you can take the 4 Intuitive Languages quiz and find show notes there too. If you want to connect on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, you can find me at Messenger of Spirit. I'll meet you right here next week. Here's to staying spiritual and ambitious.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.